come out and have to grant you wishes. But actually, they are very formidable supernatural entities who have the capability of shape-shifting into many forms and interacting with us in a variety of ways. And we believe that they take on the disguises of other entities so that many times we really don't know what we're dealing with, and they can pursue their own agendas without us realizing it.
Maybe I wasn't clear about my question here, but what I'm saying is here, you're saying this is an ancient race of beings that was here before humanity, and then they went off to another dimension. So the question I had, and I'm trying to understand, is how were they consigned to the other dimension?
Can you answer that? You want me to answer that?
Well, you go ahead, Phil, because I've got a couple there.
Oh, okay. Well, they were the stewards of this planet, this dimension, this physical existence. They developed a technology. According to the story, they developed they became very powerful. They warred among each other. They polluted the environment. They were on the verge of self-destruction. Now, according to, in the beliefs, in the Muslim beliefs, and even the Persian beliefs and its stories, a higher order of being, you can call them whatever you want, extraterrestrials, angels, or whatever, came down and stopped what they were doing and isolated them so the species would not extinguish itself. And they were put sort of like in protective custody. And most of them gave up the world and willingly went, but some of them stood by and had a war against, let's say, the angels, or whatever you want to call them, this higher order of being. And then finally they lost that war, and they were isolated in this parallel dimension where they could do very little harm. Now, as time went on, some of them interacted with human beings. At one time in history, especially during the time of King Solomon, somewhere around 4,000 years ago or so, 5,000 years ago or so, the jinn were more prominent and interacted with the human race. There was more interaction. And as time went on, more of them became isolated from humans. And the overall goal of some of these jinn, as we call the vengeful jinn, is that they don't like where they are, and they'd rather be back in this world. But if you think about it, I mean, this is almost like a lesson in morality. The jinn became very powerful. They polluted the planet. They warred among each other. They were on the verge of self-destruction. It almost sounds like the human race at this point of time. So that's the story on how they were taken. Human beings did not take them out, did not isolate them, even though some humans were given control over some jinn. Some jinn were so powerful that they had to be imprisoned. And this is where you get the idea of the jinn in the ring, or the jinn in the bottle encased by iron, or in some cases, jinn encased, imprisoned in certain caves in the Middle East. If that answers your question.
Chris?
One place I think that we should start is looking at the similarities between the whole concept of the jinn and the concept of Lucifer and the fallen angels. We have some very interesting parallels, which you point out in the beginning of your book. Iblis is considered to be one of the, if not the, mastermind behind the jinn agenda. And there are some very obvious parallels, I would say, between Iblis and Lucifer, for instance. Do you want to let's look at the parallels between the Judeo-Christian sort of version and the Middle Eastern, the Islamic traditions version, and look at similarities, and then look and see if we have an actual separation or if we're dealing with the same thing. This is very important, I think, for our listeners to understand that there is, number one, I think, a separation between the two categories of shape-shifting supernatural class of entities, and or alleged, if you were, for our skeptics out there. And I think that we need to kind of give our listeners a sense of the distinction between the two and the similarities.
Well, I'm going to let Rosemary answer
Who wants
that.
to handle that one?
I'll say one thing about it. In Islam, there are no fallen angels. The angels were made pure, of the purest light, so they're uncorruptible. They have no free will. But the jinn did have free will. And they and the devil, is a Djinn. So, I'm going to let Rosemary take it from there.
Well, Chris, there are some very important similarities and differences, and many people confuse the Djinn with demons because the ones that are interacting with us the most are hostile and aggressive, and they're often called devils. So people think they're one and the same, but the Djinn are not demons. The Jinn were absorbed into Islam, even though they pre-existed Islam, and the creation story that's told in the Quran explains, as Phil just mentioned, that the angels were created from pure spiritual light, the Jinn from smokeless fire, which in modern terms would be plasma. The angels were created from pure spiritual light, the Jinn from smokeless fire, which is plasma, and then along came humans. When God created humans, he told the angels to bow down to them, and the angels, having no free will, complied. But the leader of the Jinn, Iblis, who was in heaven, refused. He said human beings were not worthy. They were less than him, and he would not bow down. For that, God cursed him and his kind and cast them out.
I'll tell you what, we'll get into more of this in a moment. Rosemary Ellen Guiley, Philip Imbrogno, we're talking about jinns, and this is not a show about liquor. I'm going to keep emphasizing that. It's about very strange, powerful, supernatural creatures. Chris O'Brien's the co-host. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in
the Paracast.
Jacques Vallée, Bud Hopkins, Brad Steiger, Nick Redfern, Lauren Coleman. You'll find classic and new books by these and many other authors at Anomalous Books, the #1 publisher of 14 books on the planet. They specialize in books on UFOs and aliens, Bigfoot and cryptozoology, parapsychology and the paranormal, as well as alternative history, all of which makes Anomalous Books simply phenomenal. Check out their catalog at anomalousbooks.com. That's ANOMALIST books.com.
Jim Newcomer from Midas Resources, April 1st, 2011. Gold opened this morning at $1434.20. A 1-ounce gold coin can be purchased for $1471.04, $735.52 for a half ounce, or $367.76 for a quarter ounce. That's $1471.04, $735.52, and $367.76.
The Constitution and the Bill of Rights have been reduced to old relics politicians ignore, trample with their outlandish, overreaching policies. Your support of the Campaign for Liberty stands in the way of this insidious process. Hi, this is Ted Anderson. I've teamed up with the Campaign for Liberty to offer the authentic proof quarter-ounce pure gold coin. For only $390 plus shipping, Midas will donate $100 to this incredible organization. Help fight big government by ordering your gold coin at 800-686-2237. You get to win twice by owning gold and fighting an overreaching government. Call 800-686-2237. Again, that's 800-686-2237.
Alex has told you that the Mideast uprisings over food prices and shortages caused by fuel costs are spreading worldwide. We're seeing the impact right here in the United States. Ethanol that was supposed to reduce petroleum use and fuel prices hit a 30-month high in February, and pump prices are expected to reach $5 a gallon. Because of shipping costs, food is being priced out of the reach of millions of Americans, with an expected 35% jump in the next 60 days. Move quickly while you can still afford it, and eFoods Direct will pay your shipping costs for you. For the best tasting, long-term storable food, you pay nothing for shipping and can put every dollar into food at today's prices. eFoods Direct, food so delicious you can serve it tonight or save it for the future. Take advantage of free shipping by calling 800-409-5633. On the web, efoodsdirect.com/Alex, 800-409-5633, or efoodsdirect.com/Alex.
Did you know that drinking pure, high-alkaline water is one of the most important factors in maintaining high energy and vibrant health? Most experts agree that the water you drink should be at a pH level of 8 or higher. AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops, available only at alkavision.com, combine a unique formula of only the most alkaline minerals. AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops alkalize your water, ridding the body of harmful toxins, and helps you regain health and energy. Alkalizing your water by simply adding 10 drops of AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops helps the body rid itself of acidic waste, increases oxygen content, and raises the pH of your body to healthy levels. And bacteria and viruses cannot survive in an alkaline high pH environment. Order your bottle of AlkaVision Plasma pH drops for only $29.95 at alkavision.com. That's ALKAvision.com. Or call 269-409-1776. 269-409-1776. Alkalize your body. Supercharge your health at alkavision.com today.
The GCN Radio Network, providing the world with hard-hitting talk radio. GCN. Great talk radio starts here.
We want to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com. Get in on all the action at forum.theparacast.com.
We return searching for the vengeful Djinn with Rosemary Ellen Guiley and Philip Imbrogno. I'm Gene Steinberg. The co-host is Chris O'Brien. And we've had a few glitches, I think, carryovers from that strange interview we did with Richard Sauter on the previous week's episode where we had the wasps.
Mosquito.
I thought it was wasps myself.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So go ahead, Chris.
Okay. We're back in the saddle here. I'm not sure how you pronounce the name of Azazel, but Iblis, I think, is the other term that's applied to the once powerful angel that I think we were referring to before. And one of the things that I find very interesting is the whole thing in Leviticus 16 in the Bible, in verse 9, where God tells Moses that his brother Aaron should take 2 goats and sacrifice them, one for the Lord for sin and the second for Azazel. And this is one of our earliest real indications of a master Djinn, if you will, in terms of documentation in some sort of written down form. And this is, I think, where, as you point out in the book, where the Djinn are often equated with desert areas because these atonements or these sacrifices were sent out to the desert. Now, this also brings up the classification of Djinn. We do have Djinn that are a lot different than other Djinn according to the traditional knowledge. And if one or both of you could comment on this very interesting classification system that has kind of arisen through the millennia of how the Djinn are actually divided into categories. This is very fascinating.
Bill, do you want to take that one?
Well, yeah, I can start on it, and you can finish it. You see, human beings know very little about Djinn, and the only thing that we know is what we found out by accident. Some Djinn talk too much, or some information leaks over. At one time, we knew much more about them than we do now. But Djinn have families. The family unit is small. All the relatives belong to clans. Clans are ruled by powerful Djinns, and they're all ruled by Djinn kings. They have their own social structure. They have their own accountability. For example, not all Djinn are evil. In Islam, for example, the evil Djinn are referred to as devils. You have to remember, they're like a human being. There's many likes and many dislikes. You're dealing with an individual. And what people have a tendency to do when they think about Djinn, they think about the entire race and lump them all into one category and one mentality. That's not true. They're individuals. You have psychotic Djinn. Hope you never run into one. You have curious, childlike Djinn, who are actually thousands of years old. And you have very powerful, noble Djinn, which very rarely interact with the human race. But you see, in the old days, in the Persian folklore, if something was not an angel or angelic in nature and was not a human, they were considered Djinn in between. They started identifying that there are different types of Djinn. And where you go in the country, wherever Middle Eastern country you go to, you'll hear different names. And that can be very, very confusing because there's probably 20, 30, 40, 50 different names for Djinn. And it depends upon the country you're in. But if you go back to the root of the Persian belief, they divide them into certain types of ranks or colors. You'll see the early representations of these Djinn, blue Djinn further away, with blue skin. but it really has nothing to do with the color of their skin. It had something to do with our identification of their rank, which is very powerful. And green jinn, which are very, very young, and yellow jinn, which are in between. So the blue jinn are the elders, the very powerful ones that were around at the fall of the jinn, that were around. That, remember, the green jinn are less powerful. Most of them are young. You see, in the jinn ranks, the older they are, you assume that the more knowledge they get. They're not born with power that they can do anything. Like human beings, they have to learn how to manipulate this power. For example, as we go to school and we learn more things, we become more knowledgeable and more powerful ourselves. But there are people who go through their entire life and they'll go past a high school education or sixth grade education in some cases, and they never reach a certain level, and they never seek additional knowledge. The jinn have to do the same thing. They have probably training sessions, schools, and so on, where they teach people how to use their abilities, and they teach their people how to manipulate matter and energy. And not all jinn have the same power. Some are definitely more capable than others. So you look at jinn, you have to look at them as individuals and not as the sum of the whole, as one mentality, because they're not.
A question here, Philip. Do they look like humans? Are they human-like or what? I mean, we think of the pictures we see, of course, in the movies of genie. Sometimes they're human, sometimes they're, as they say, a little bit monstrous. What's the truth?
Blue-colored Robin Williams.
Robin Williams,
yeah,
yes.
I mean,
that's the ultimate jinn.
Yes, but you have to remember that jinn, according to the Quran, are actually made of smokeless fire, which to me, sounds like plasma, which means they have really no form. Their form seems to be contained by magnetic fields, and they can manipulate the shape of the magnetic field to manipulate their shape. They have the ability, for example, to take certain forms of matter, certain forms of plasma, certain forms of matter, and change it into other forms. And to us, we understand this process today, although we can't do it. But back then, the ability of a jinn to do this was magic. They could take on different forms, but they can't hold forms. The more powerful and the more trained the jinn is, the longer he can keep a form, or she can keep a certain type of form. They can take the form of animals. Most of them will take the form of humans, reptilian-like creatures, monster-like creatures. When they take human form, most of them are very beautiful looking, if they want to be. But according to what I understand when I was in the Middle East, is that they have a problem with one form, and that's maintaining the shape of the human eye. Jinn eyes are yellow, and they're almost snake-like. They have one problem: they can't hold the shape of the eyes, and the eyes revert back to the jinn. So this is how they say how you can identify a human who is a jinn. Sooner or later, if you're around them long enough, the eyes are going to flicker back and forth into a jinn eyes.
Or maybe they'll always wear sunglasses.
Well, that's what I'm saying now. I mean, there are people walking around in the Middle East, wearing sunglasses all the time. Like the Terminator, for example, he had the red eyes. So he wore the sunglasses. So this is the same sort of thing where, the jinn, they say, are in this world in human form, and they wear sunglasses so that people can't identify them, even if people did. I mean, if you walk down in New York City and you're walking down in a very strange individual and your eyes flash the yellow, people walk by you and they wouldn't even care.
Well, in New York, there's so many weird people that it doesn't matter if somebody's an E.T., it's a jinn, or anything else. It wouldn't make a difference.
A jinn can, interface with this world, and especially in the United States, and go unnoticed. But in the Middle East, it's a different story.
I want to ask you more about this in a moment. We have Rosemary Ellen Guiley, Philip Imbrogno. We're talking about the vengeful jinn and why they're vengeful. The co-host is Chris O'Brien. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in
the Paracast.
Ray Perkins, a reclusive veteran burned out from the Gulf War, lives tortured by relentless, perplexing nightmares. Nightmares of a horrific battle in deep space and of a mysterious woman suffering in agony for her devastated world. A woman not yet born, calling across centuries to him. Then, a coincidence leads him to his destiny, his chance to alter the universe. Attack of the Rockoids. The former fiction editor for Star Wars and Indiana Jones, Robert Simpson, writes, "The soul of the novel Attack of the Rockoids lies in its heart and passion for building a convincing tale of a love that spans the galaxy. A thrilling story. Attack of the Rockoids is available now. Read a sample chapter and get a special discount off of the cover price at our website, rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com. Attack of the Rockoids, a novel in the grand science fiction tradition.
The food storage industry leader has done it again.
Introducing FDG Clubs and Survival Bucks from the Freeze Dry Guy. For over 39 years, the Freeze Dry Guy has served various government agencies and the private sector with the finest in storable foods and emergency rations. If you've wanted to build emergency food supplies but couldn't afford it,
now you can.
Go to freezedryguy.com, click on products, and look for the Freeze Dry Guy Clubs to pay as you go.
Now you can build food storage without going into debt.
Choose from a payment range of $95 to $450 per month.
Our clubs work with everyone's budget.
Plus, when you join Freeze Dry Guy Clubs, you'll get additional rewards. For example, this month, get 10% back in Survival Bucks on all purchases in the Freeze Dry Guy product line, plus free shipping within the lower 48 states on any order amount. Hurry, go to freezedryguy.com or call 866-404-3663. That's freezedryguy.com or call 866-404-3663. The Freeze Dry Guy, the best you can buy. We all know that Berkey Water Purification Systems are the most trusted name in water filtration. As an authorized Berkey dealer for over 5 years and serving thousands of satisfied customers, the Berkey Guy offers amazing specials for Berkey water filtration systems. The Berkey Light systems include a set of self-sterilizing and recleanable black purification elements that purify water by removing chlorine, pathogenic bacteria, cysts, and parasites to non-detectable levels and remove harmful chemicals such as herbicides and pesticides. Order the Berkey Light System today, complete with 2 black Berkey elements for only $220. And the Berkey Guy will include 3 Sport Berkey water bottles and ship everything to you free of charge. That's right, 3 Sport Berkey water bottles and free shipping. An $87 value, yours free. Call the Berkey Guy at 1-877-886-3653. That's 1-877-886-3653. Or order online at goberkey.com. That's goberkey.com today.
It's the winter cold and flu supplement sale at herbalhealer.com. Take advantage of Herbal Healer Academy's incredible savings on the best cold and flu supplements available. Many of you know elderberry is exceptional against viral infections. Right now, Herbal Healer Academy has Elderberry Power, regularly priced at $16.95, now incredibly low at only $10 for 60 vegetarian caps. For children and seniors, our Herbal Healer Academy Flew Away Elderberry Liquid is only $13 for a 4-ounce bottle. Also on super sale, olive leaf capsules, oregano oil plus capsules, and our incredible Respirate formula, Oregacillin Physician Strength capsules for your lungs. Normally $34.95, now just $25. Hit the winter specials link at herbalhealer.com for these cold and flu supplement specials and other on-sale products like apple cider vinegar, brain power, and neuro recovery. New customers get a free catalog with your first order. Log on and hit the winter specials now at herbalhealer.com.
America's #1 source for independent talk radio for over a decade. We are the GCN Radio Network.
Hi, this is nuclear physicist lecturer Stanton Friedman. You are listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
We're returning with Rosemary Ellen Guiley and Philip Imbrogno. We're talking about vengeful jinns. What are they here for? Are they real? Later on, Chris O'Brien, our co-host, will ask the questions you listeners asked in the Paracast forums at forum.paracast.com. But I'll ask the obvious skeptics question, okay? We think of genies, jinn, whatever, as the stuff of legends, fanciful stories, Aladdin's magic lamp, Barbara Eden as I Dream of Jeannie. So for people who don't believe in this kind of stuff, how do you prove it to them? Rosemary, you want to start with that?
I never try to prove the paranormal or anything supernatural to anyone because the skeptics will hold out and not believe until they have an experience that convinces them otherwise. To people who sit on the fence, I say, well, you can't really cherry pick the paranormal. You can't allow yourself to believe in something like fairies or angels or even demons or ghosts, then feel that some other part of the paranormal couldn't possibly exist. If we're going to study these entity encounters, which clearly human beings have been having throughout our history, then we have to be open to all possibilities. Our entity encounters are told through our mythologies and our folklore. I think one thing that Western people may have difficulty with concerning the Djinn is that the folklore never really became part of our Western folklore. It's Middle Eastern folklore that still seems very remote and surreal to a lot of people in the West. But it's just as real as folklore about the fairies, our ghost stories, and our current mythology concerning extraterrestrial encounters.
I'll ask that obvious question. Does the Djinn have anything to do with what we perceive as UFOs? Any relationship?
Well, absolutely. One of the things that we do in the Vengeful Djinn
We just lost Chris again. Hang on.
Chris, did you make your wishes to the Djinn?
Okay, wish number one. I wish for a good connection.
Oh, yeah, you may not get it. Don't say that.
Well, this is interesting here. Normally, we only have occasional problems with the technology. It doesn't matter what kind of technology, satellite, whatever, there are going to be problems. Now, Chris is maybe, 120 or 130 miles away from me, and we normally have a pretty good connection, but today he's had troubles maintaining a good connection. So, but the point is here, we think of Djinn, Rosemary, and Philip, I guess, as mischievous. Now, are they just playing pranks on us, or maybe in Chris's parlance, are they tricksters, or they have a higher purpose in mind?
There is a significant trickster element to the Djinn, and from their very ancient folklore, they are renowned for being deceitful, tricky, stealthy, and looking for ways basically to interfere with human beings and undercut them. And of course, if they are wronged, they can be quite vengeful. And this is an element that exists in a lot of our paranormal experiences across the board.
Well, let's get back to the historical elements before we move on and kind of equate the Djinn into a more modern context. One of the things that I've always been fascinated by are the legends surrounding King Solomon, of course, the son of David, who, it is said, was able to corral the Djinn and was able to control them to the extent where they actually helped build the first real Temple of Jerusalem. Can we talk about that a little bit and how Solomon, I think, as a historical character, appears to be a crucial kind of conjunction in belief systems between the idealized Western pop culture version and the more traditional Islamic version?
King Solomon is one of the main ways that the Djinn entered Western folklore through the magical tradition. He's a legendary figure and somewhat historical. There isn't too much really known about him. He was said to live about 1000 BC. He was the second king of Israel. He was the son of David. When he assumed the kingship, God asked him what he would like, what sort of gift he would like, and he asked for discernment. So God granted him great wisdom and power because he was seeking discernment rather than something to glorify himself. One of the things that he was able to do was command the Djinn, and this was through a magical ring that also was a gift of God that enabled him to summon them, cause them to reveal their names, which is in magic a form of command and control. And then he enslaved them to build the Temple of Jerusalem, and in some accounts, the entire city of Jerusalem, for which they complained and felt they suffered mightily, and they were enslaved until his death. The magic that he is said to have used to control the Djinn became incorporated in a book called The Greater Key of Solomon, which does have some ancient roots going back to about the 1st century CE and has been handed down throughout the centuries in various magical texts called grimoires. These are texts for conjuring and summoning spirits. That's often translated as spirits or angels or demons in our Western translations, never as Djinn, which was the original. And these are handbooks that have astrological information in them, all of the incantations, magical seals, symbols, and instructions for controlling these spirits who were originally the Djinn.
Well, we have an interesting parallel down in the Maya traditions of the Alukes, who supposedly were able to build the Temple of the Magician at Uxmal overnight. And do you see any with your work? I mean, obviously, the two of you are pretty amazing in terms of the amount of research you've done into these legendary type forms that seem to be manifesting, today in the modern world to a greater or lesser extent, depending on how skeptical you are. But do you see parallels with other traditional systems of knowledge, for instance, the Maya, and this tradition of dwarf-like, almost Djinn-like entities being able to build a whole temple in a single night?
Well, we see a lot of similarities between the descriptions of the Djinn and descriptions of other kinds of entities. We've compared them to fairies, demons, shadow people, mysterious creatures, extraterrestrials, and we're not saying that these other entities don't exist in their own right, but the Djinn could infiltrate among these entities as a way of trying to get back into this world, yet remaining hidden. So there are some definite parallels, and the question then is, how do we know what's what? How do we discern among the various entities that we're interacting with? And these are some of the questions that we wanted to raise with the book to get people thinking about the true nature of our supernatural encounters and the purposes behind them. For example, considering the ETs, we've got the ETs who seem to be abducting us and having a hybridization program going on. Well, could the Djinn be involved in that? In lore, they are capable of intermingling with and mating with human beings to produce offspring. So they could have their own program going on, but as a masquerade, we're thinking it's all ETs, and it may not be, for example.
Well, you're both, admirable, seasoned field investigators, and I must underscore that. You're not just sitting in your armchairs researching arcane fact, if you can call them facts in the historical tradition. As field investigators going out into the field now, armed with this whole new set of research that you've really, obviously, you've dove into the pool of the Djinn, and I'm wondering, how do you differentiate? Like, let's say you go out to a haunted site and you have inexplicable phenomena occurring and potential entities in terms of your average interpretation. How would you differentiate between a standard, let's say, ghost that's some sort of residual type spirit or entity, and something that's conscious and self-determined like a Djinn?
Before we have the answer to that question, we have Rosemary Ellen Guiley, Philip M. Brockno. I'm Gene Steinberg. Chris O'Brien's the co-host. You're in
the Paracast.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter, and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code Night Owl. Use the coupon code Night Owl to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's Lemke soft.com. Lemkesoft.com. Lemke soft.com.
Are you still a traditional smoker? Now experience a new lifestyle and try vaping with e-cigarettes by LeSig. Imagine no ashes, stains, nasty smell, or coughing and hacking. With LeSig e-cigarettes' revolutionary microelectronic technology, rechargeable battery, and unique replaceable cartridge, you'll get all the benefits and satisfaction of smoking without the hazards. Choose your taste from a wide variety of our new American-made vape-free e-liquids at LeSig.com. And LeSig smokes the competition by serving thousands of worldwide customers with real people customer service, fast, free, same-day shipping, and a 30-day warranty and satisfaction guarantee. So are you ready for a new vaping lifestyle? Then call 870-518-4307. That's 870-518-4307. Or visit LeSig.com, spelled LECIG.com. LeSig e-cigarettes for today's modern smoker.
There's mounting evidence suggesting that there are people, governments, corporations, and whole professions intent on short-circuiting humanity's well-being. GMO, food legislation protecting big agriculture, the attempted elimination of vitamins and alternative medicines, it seems their hand has been tipped. They want to dictate your health, wealth, and your longevity. Whatever the outcome, we have a solution. Wild edible food. Why worry about food when all has been provided? We imagine that we were ejected from the garden and never invited back, but the garden's still here. There is an endless wild abundance which grows all over our green earth, just waiting for you to wake up and see it. Let author Linda Runyon teach you how to see, know, get, prepare, store, and eat wild edible food. Save money, add nutrition, and ignore the noise when you go shopping in Nature's Supermarket. Go to ofthefield.com and get started today. Or call 1-888-51-EAT-FREE. That's ofthefield.com or call 1-888-51-EAT-FREE and begin to see a different world.
Normal blood pressure, naturally. How would that make you feel?
I'm Don from New Mexico. January of 2000, I had a heart attack. Then my real health began going downhill, and I had high blood pressure, high blood sugar, poor vision, and I really wasn't sleeping well. I was a mess, pretty much.
Don reports dramatic improvements with Heart and Body Extract.
I started taking Heart and Body Extract, and from within a few days, I started sleeping a lot better. My blood pressure normalized, my blood sugar normalized, and my sleep really did improve.
Experience these benefits and more when your body gets what it needs with the assistance of Heart and Body Extract. Order at hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305. That's hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305.
And folks, I did not expect this at all. By the 7th, 8th, and 9th day, I saw dramatic improvements from taking Heart and Body Extract.
Details at hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305 for Heart and Body Extract.
Are you tired of searching for great talk radio?
Something more important.
Search no more. We are the GCN Radio Network.
You're in the Paracast. You never know what's going to happen next.
We seek the Djinn, or maybe we shouldn't seek the Djinn, I don't know. Of course, the book is The Vengeful Djinn, from Philip Imbrogno and Rosemary Ellen Guiley. And before our break, Chris O'Brien was asking a very long, detailed question, and I'll leave it up to Philip and Rosemary to decide who takes the question. Go for it.
Well, if you go in the Middle East, they'll tell you that there are no UFOs, there are no ghosts, there are no demons, there are no fallen angels, there are only Djinn. So how do you differentiate between other types of paranormal phenomena and the Djinn? Well, Djinn are very crafty and they're very old. And if they want to hide themselves, there's no way that you're going to be able to identify them. But like humans, they have egos. They have a tendency to, after a while, expose themselves for who they really are. Most will engage in conversation after a while, and if they think they have the upper hand over the poor human, fool the human is their favorite game, they will continue. So this is one way that you can identify any type of jinn activity. Now you have to remember, they don't have one mentality. If you're dealing with a psychotic jinn, he's going to act psychotic. It's going to act psychotic. If you're dealing with a young jinn, it's going to act very childish. Many of the young jinn, according to legend, like to appear in front of children and take on forms like what they expect, like storybook characters and so on and so on. And they always say, we should take into consideration and take more serious childhood, imaginary friends, so-called imaginary friends. So if you look at the entire paranormal, it's very confusing. I mean, you have the ghost hunters out there, you have the UFO people out there, you have the Bigfoot hunters out there. And, most of them don't agree with the other as to what are the origin of these phenomena. But once you factor in the jinn, it puts in that element that sort of makes it a little easier to understand. And I want to make it very clear that, jinn are not magical beings. They are dimensional entities that use what we would consider the new ideas of physics to manipulate matter. What they do and what they're capable of, we're beginning to understand with the new areas of theoretical physics. So it's not too far from, let's say, the beliefs of anyone that there are these other dimensional existences out there, and there's no reason to assume that some of them are not inhabited by intelligent beings. Now, what the jinn call themselves, we don't know. That's the name we've given to the jinn. It means the hidden ones, because in the Middle East and in the Persian beliefs, they thought they were invisible because they could not be seen only if they wanted to be seen. But today, invisibility may mean that they exist in a parallel dimension, an area of space that we can't turn to see.
Well, let's kind of fast forward into the present day and talk about your trip, actually, to the Middle East, Phil, where you had quite an amazing field trip out to a particular a particular location. Yeah. Why don't you give us a sense of what it's like to go as a field investigator to a foreign land, to a place that has an ancient tradition of being a kind of a grand central station for this classification of entity? Why don't you give us a kind of a sense of what it's like to go chasing after them?
Well, that was not my original idea. I was over in Israel, and I kept on hearing about the jinn, this. And I'm saying, what the heck is a jinn? And I was thinking about people who think, oh, yes, the jinn. Because I was interested in UFOs back then, and I was doing a lot of field research in the UFOs back then. And, so I just started asking around and making friends with people and so on, and a lot of people are very friendly there. And they kept on saying jinn. And I'm saying, my first thought was, a drink. People want gin. What are they talking about? Then I began to realize they were talking about genies. And, of course, being a dumb Westerner, I started laughing. They took this like, how could you be laughing at the jinn? They're very, very serious. I was thinking about, Barbara Eden and, Robin Williams and Aladdin's Lamp and all that and all this, Arabian Nights stuff. And I began to realize that the people over there took it very serious. So to make a very long story short, I was able to get into Saudi Arabia with no problem. Well, with some problems from Israel. It's a long comical story almost. And I began to pick up more information on the jinn. I actually had dinner with a member, and other people, of course, a member of the royal Saudi family. And as I'm sitting at the dinner table with a friend of mine who I served with in the military, who was a high-ranking officer in the Saudi royal family security force, I was sitting next to the cousin of the prince and so on. The prince was supposed to be there, but he didn't show up, so the cousin showed up for the dinner as an ambassador. And he looked over to me and he says, "You're an American. What do you do in my country?" And I said, I'm tracking down and researching jinn. I've got interested in it. And he yells at the top of his lungs, "Jinn?" He says, "They are in my country." He says, "Your government is trying to capture one."
Oh.
He told me this amazing story about how there are governments of the world, look at the Saudi government, the United States, and European governments, and so on. They have a special unit, and they're out in the desert in these special operations, and they're trying to capture a jinn. And because they know that jinn travel through the dimensional barriers, and they figure they're using some type of technology, they want to capture one to obtain this technology. Now, this is not the first time that I've heard this story. And I was really amazed. And then, of course, he wouldn't talk to me anymore, but he referred me to a holy man who was downtown in the other part of the poor part of the Saudi of Riyadh. And you have to remember, there are two classes of people, the very rich and the very poor. And this particular individual, I had a translator, and he told me the entire history of the jinn. So from there, I ended up in Oman and ended up at a place called Majas al-Jinn, which means the cave of the jinn. Now, the interesting thing enough, originally that cave was called the meeting place or the place of the goat. And once again, that ties in Azazel, the goat god, with the jinn, and so on and so on. But in that cave, it's supposed to be where the jinn enter our particular reality. And it's an amazing place. I mean, it's just not like a little cave. The only way that you can get into it is from the top, openings in the top. And it's so large in there that you could fit the pyramid, the big pyramid at Giza, inside the cavern and still have room. And this is how big it is. So from the top of the opening to the bottom is like 350 feet. And I had a guide and also my interpreter, and I went down, halfway down, and they were up, and they would not come in. They said to me, well, here is where you must go alone, my friend. And I looked at them like, give me a break. I thought you were coming with me. Anyway, about halfway down, I hear them yelling. And of course, I can't understand what they're saying. They're speaking Arabic, but I heard the word jinn. And during that time, I could swear in the cave, I mean, the echoing and everything, I could swear I could hear a voice. And I couldn't understand what it was saying, but there was a green mist that was coming up from the bottom of the cave and rising up. And I look up, and my interpreter and my guide is gone.
Now you're hanging on belay.
I'm hanging. I'm rappelling down. I'm about 150 feet down, and they're up there screaming. And I see this mist coming up, and I think I hear this voice that's speaking this language, but I'm not exactly sure because it was echoing in the cave, and they were rambling on an Arabic up there, and I didn't understand them, but I heard the word jinn. So I look up, and they're gone, and I'm saying to myself, I got to get back up there. So I'm climbing back up, and I come to the top of the opening, and they're running down the hill. And I'm saying, where are you going? And my interpreter yells back. He said, the jinn. He says, we have to get out of here. And, of course, they're ready to jump in the Jeep and take off. And I would be left somewhere in the Hajar Mountains all by myself, an American.
So they wouldn't care. If they wouldn't care, they'd abandon you.
They were going to take off in the Jeep. And I would leave me there. They were so terrified. So I ran down and caught up with them and got in the Jeep as they were taking off, and they were saying all these Arabic prayers on the way back. And my guide who came with me from Saudi Arabia, he was a captain in the Saudi Army, and he was saying to me, I never believed. I heard legends. I heard stories. I didn't believe, but they are real. The jinn are real. So we went back to the town of Finn, where the people were very upset. Our guide started telling them what happened, and the people got very upset with me because they said that I woke up a sleeping jinn.
I'll tell you what, you woke up the jinn, but we have to wake up our sponsors right now, otherwise they're going to be very upset. We have Rosemary Ellen Guiley and Philip M. Brockno. I'm Gene Steinberg. The co-host is Chris O'Brien. You're in
the Paracast.
Hi, Ted Anderson announcing a great way to listen to radio on the telephone. By calling 760-569-7700, you'll be hearing GCNlive.com programs in seconds. Come to GCNlive.com, find your favorite host's dedicated phone number, and hear them 24/7. You heard me right. Every show has a dedicated phone number. Stop by gcnlive.com and bookmark their number today. And again, that's 760-569-7700. We the people grow cotton, weave fabric, engrave ink, embed strips and fibers to protect from counterfeit and carting to a private bank, having it lent back at interest, forcing taxes to service debt. This capitalism, or was Jefferson correct when stating a central bank issuing the public currency is a greater menace to the liberties of the people than a standing army? Ted Anderson, I'm placing a free silver dollar in a book that explains our monetary system. Call for your copy, 800-686-2237. It's time to understand the system. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Okay, if that's the kind of accent you're doing, Chris, please
I was
don't.
trying to do an Arabic accent, but it didn't work.
Don't
Sorry.
quit your day job.
Okay.
I think this is your day job, so we're stuck with that. Rosemary Ellen Guiley, Philip Imbrogno, we're talking about the Djinn, and it looks like possibly Philip came up close and personal to one of these creatures, but at least you got out of there safely. Have you had any other close encounters of this sort?
Not me, no.
I've encountered entities in some of my investigations that we feel are quite certain are Djinn. And you were asking a little earlier, how do you know the difference? And sometimes it's by a process of elimination. It depends on the behavior of the entity, the kinds of things that it acts out doing against human beings. They tend to be, if they're powerful enough, very resistant to efforts to dislodge them or to exorcise them. They will engage in conversation, as Phil mentioned. We have some cases in our files that we've been tracking for quite some time. People who are living in what we call paranormal hot zones or portal areas where there's a lot of different kinds of entity activities. And it seems that Djinn are able to lodge in these areas and sort of have a foot in two worlds, so to speak, where they're in their own dimension and yet they can have a territorial hold in ours. They are behind haunting disturbances of tremendous magnitude. They can create ghost and poltergeist phenomena. They manifest as shadow people. We get EVP with them, electronic voice phenomena, mysterious lights, mysterious creatures, and entities that some people would say are demonic. But we stress that, demons are not the same as Djinn. So sometimes people think that they're really dealing with demonic cases, and in fact, we've discussed these with our demonologist friend, John Zaffis, who's one of the leading demonologists around. He's been investigating for about 30-some years, and he has many cases in his files that people thought were demons, but they just fell into an unexplained category because the entities didn't behave like demons, and they couldn't be gotten rid of the way we usually get rid of demons. So it becomes very problematic sometimes to identify exactly what we're dealing with, especially when you have a race of beings like the Djinn who can shapeshift into a variety of forms, so they can keep changing their guise.
The fast question occurs to me here, the Djinn. Is it all magic that they do things, or do they have some kind of technology, some innate technology that they use to accomplish this? Some kind of highly advanced technology that allows for the shape-shifting and all the other crazy things?
Well, it's both, but it's not magic. They have certain devices and certain things which can manipulate matter and energy to a certain degree. For example, like I said, they have to understand, they have to learn, and they're taught the different arrangements of matter, how strings create the elementary particles and how the elementary particles combine together to make protons and so on. They just can't snap their fingers and gold appears and something like that. They have to rearrange the strings and rearrange matter in order to change one form to another. Now, for the most part, most of the powerful jinn and the advanced jinn, the knowledgeable jinn, they have the ability, because they are a plasma and they have a certain amount of energy in a magnetic field, to actually go into solid molecular structure and rearrange the atomic structure into something that they want to turn it into. And in the old days, the jinn would grab glass, hold it in its hand, and open its hand for the person, and it would be gold. And the person would say, "Oh, it's magic." But you see, today we can understand that one form of matter can be turned into another form by changing the vibration of the strings that make up the elementary particles in the universe. So we're actually catching up to the jinn. But see, according to what I understand and heard in the Middle East, jinn are very, very impressed with the human race. For example, they're amazed that we can build things like computers and TVs, and that we're such limited beings, that we have this knowledge to do all of these things now. And actually, they consider us a threat to a certain degree. One of the things you have to remember, that jinn are plasma beings. They're contained by magnetic fields. This is what I'm assuming from what I'm hearing. So they're very susceptible to electromagnetic pulses. One of the reasons is that they're afraid that the human race is going to develop some type of technology which is going to affect them where they are and destroy them. So this is why, for example, they're keeping an eye on us. There are many people in the Middle East and even in this country who do believe that we're being spied upon from a distance and watched for many, many centuries, watching us develop and keeping an eye on us so we don't get out of hand.
Well, that brings up, a follow-up question that I had concerning a very tantalizing bit of information that you relayed, in that there seems to be, according to rumor, a concerted effort by the Western military, I guess, intelligence powers to capture a jinn. Can you shed any more light on that particular assertion? Or?
Oh, yeah, because, when I was over in the Middle East, and not only did I hear it at the dinner table from a member of the royal family, when I was in Oman and Finn in the Hajar Mountains, in the village, I encountered a person who spoke really good English. He was a teacher, but he lived in Oman. He was educated in the United States, and he liked to go hiking in the Hajar Mountains, which is very beautiful, by the way. And he said one day he was hiking in a certain area, and he saw a black portal open up, and he saw a jinnaya with her child. A jinnaya is a female jinn. And according to the beliefs there, when a jinnaya is with its child, it's very protective. He saw the jinnaya, and her eyes looked at him like, I'm going to kill you if you even make a move. And he became very terrified, and he ran. Now, as he's trying to get away, he's running over the hill. He says, Jeeps came over and helicopters came over. And he said, they picked him up, and it was military men. He said they were Saudis. He said they were Americans. He said they were Europeans. They brought him to what he said a base of operations in the Hajar Mountains, and they took him into a room, and they debriefed him exactly what he saw, where he saw it, and he said he was more afraid of these individuals who were humans than he was of the jinnaya that he saw. He wouldn't tell me much more information after that because he was afraid they were going to come and get him if he revealed too much information. But this is operation I'm hearing about governments of the world trying to capture a jinn. Now, over in Pine Bush, New York, back in the 90s, there was a lot of UFO sightings, a lot of strange creatures appearing, and also. Now, one day and one evening, it happened on a number of occasions, the military came in, blocked off an entire area, knocked on the doors of people, and told them to stay inside their homes. Do not come out. People were looking out and seeing helicopters coming down, all kinds of military vehicles coming up, and something was going on. They told them it was just a training exercise. Now, with all of that activity taking place there in the Hudson Valley, my contacts told me that this is before I went to Saudi Arabia, that there was a dimensional being transversing the dimensions in a portal in the Pine Bush area, and there was a special unit in the military that was specially trained to capture it and take its technology. So that's from 3 different sources that I've heard it in my own investigations.
I'll tell you what, we'll pursue those investigations in far more detail as we explore the legends and the possible reality of the vengeful Djinn with Rosemary Ellen Guiley and Philip Imbrogno. The co-host is Chris O'Brien. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in
the Paracast.
Have you been sitting on a few great domain name ideas but haven't locked them in for yourself? Good. Now you can buy them through the #1 domain name registrar, Namecheap.com, as voted by the top tech blog Lifehacker. Just like the name says, you can buy domains cheap, as low as $2.99, and every new domain comes with WhoisGuard, our special privacy service, free for the first year. Now that you know, it's time to grab those domain names before someone else does. Namecheap.com. Go now. Namecheap.com.
Fate magazine provides true reports of the strange and unknown. Keep up with the latest on angels and miracles, psychic phenomena, ghosts, UFOs, life after death, and much, much more. To receive your free issue of Fate magazine, call now at 1-800-728-2730 or visit their website at www.fatemag.com. That's 1-800-728-2730. What are you waiting for? Your fate awaits.
Are you wondering about your retirement portfolio? Are you confident that the financial advisor is experienced enough to combat climbing interest rates, taxes, and inflation? Stop guessing and go to the expert, Robert Chapman of the International Forecaster. When you subscribe to the International Forecaster, you get Robert Chapman's 45 years of experience and concise investment recommendations. Who needs sugar-coated excuses when you can get the cold hard facts and proven investment leads you can't get anywhere else? For a free introductory copy to Robert Chapman's International Forecaster, subscribe now at theInternationalForecaster.com or call 877-479-8178. Experience the difference. When you subscribe, you can email Robert Chapman directly to obtain investment advice tailored just for you. Don't wait another minute. Subscribe today at theInternationalForecaster.com or call 877-479-8178. That's 877-479-8178.
Alex has told you that the Mideast uprisings over food prices and shortages caused by fuel costs are spreading worldwide. We're seeing the impact right here in the United States. Ethanol that was supposed to reduce petroleum use and fuel prices hit a 30-month high in February, and pump prices are expected to reach $5 a gallon. Because of shipping costs, food is being priced out of the reach of millions of Americans with an expected 35% jump in the next 60 days. Move quickly while you can still afford it, and eFoods Direct will pay your shipping costs for you. For the best tasting long-term storable food, you pay nothing for shipping and can put every dollar into food at today's prices. eFoods Direct, food so delicious you can serve it tonight or save it for the future. Take advantage of free shipping by calling 800-409-5633. On the web, efoodsdirect.com/Alex, 800-409-5633, or efoodsdirect.com/Alex.
Never buy home canning jar lids again. No kidding. When you buy Tadler reusable canning lids once, you'll never buy canning lids ever again. Safely store emergency preparedness foods for years. Traditional metal lids are single-use throwaways containing BPA. But Tadler reusable canning lids are guaranteed to last a lifetime when used as designed for home canning. Tadler lids are made with a USDA and FDA-approved food-grade plastic, safe for direct food contact, and contain no BPA. Tadler lids are dishwasher safe, usable with standard pressure or water bath canning, eliminate food spoilage from acid corrosion, fit standard mason jars, are indefinitely reusable, and are proudly made in the USA. Place orders at reusablecanninglids.com or call 1-877-747-2793. 877-747-2793. Call 877-747-2793 or go to reusablecanninglids.com. That's reusablecanninglids.com for Tadler reusable canning lids, the original since 1976.
The GCN Radio Network, providing the world with hard-hitting talk radio. GCN. Great talk radio starts here.
We want to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And if you want to catch up on past episodes, we have hundreds of shows for you to download direct from theparacast.com. That's theparacast.com. Or check us out on iTunes.
As we continue, we're well into our second hour of the show with Rosemary Ellen Guiley and Philip Ambrogno. We're exploring the vengeful Djinn, the legends of the genies, supernatural beings from possibly a parallel dimension. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in the Paracast, and we have co-host Chris O'Brien, who's going to pick up on the questioning. Chris?
One of the things that kind of comes through fairly loudly here is this whole idea of the subterranean element with the Djinn, and the fact that it does appear that they tend to prefer, according to the tradition, subterranean spaces, caves, underground tunnel systems, that sort of thing. I know, Phil, you were involved in digging into some, pardon the pun, into some pretty interesting cavern systems in the Pine Bush area that you were just talking about in the Hudson River Valley area. And you did relate, your experience spelunking into one of the largest caves, I think, on the planet. Correct me if I'm wrong. What is the connection between this subterranean element that you find in fairy lore, in other traditional types of lore that has to do with caves? What is the connection there, do you think?
Well, that's one for Rosemary. She's more versed on that.
There are a number of connections, Chris. There's a very strong association between Djinn and fairies, and in fact, I think that this is one of their favorite forms that they've adopted, especially in the past, because the fairies have a similar story. They were the original inhabitants of this earth, and they lost out to human beings, not quite in the same way, but the same result. They lost out, they lost their place, and they retreated to another place to live. And for fairies, this was another dimension that was accessed underground. There were these openings in tree roots and in mounds that led across this what seemed to be a magical threshold to the parallel dimension where fairies lived, all underground. And time passed differently. Spaces opened up into small spaces, would open up into huge ways, almost like the TARDIS in Doctor Who. You go into the police box and it opens up into a huge thing. And we found in a lot of our investigations that these portal areas that are terrifically haunted, and with Djinn, we believe, often have caves, major sources of underground water, tunnels, like old abandoned mine shafts. And in lore, these underground passageways have long been associated with transit points between the spirit realms and our realms, that spirits have a way of traveling through them. And then, of course, we have the reptilian association. Reptilians, which are lumped in with extraterrestrials a lot, may not really be ETs, but ultra-terrestrials, beings from another dimension. And they're said to live underground, too, of course, like snakes would, because snakes have holes in the ground. And the reptilians would be a favored form of the Djinn. In Middle Eastern lore, snakes are one of their dominant shape-shifted forms. And so we have that connection there, sort of linking the one kind of ultra or extraterrestrial to the Djinn, to a shape-shifted form, to an underground abode that would be considered to be like a parallel dimension to ours.
Magonia, borrowing the title of Jacques Vallée's Passport to Magonia, which is I think a French version of that otherworld or netherworld that has access points underground. I must add that one of the largest, I think it is actually the largest cavern system in Colorado, overlooks one of the most active portal areas that I personally investigated. So I've always been very intrigued by this subterranean connection. And you even find it in Bigfoot, places where Bigfoot tend to be reported repeatedly also tend to feature subterranean cavern systems. One of the things that I was struck by your book, and I didn't know this when prior to reading it, is that there, in the Islamic tradition and in the traditional knowledge related to the jinn in the Middle East, there are certain elements and certain tools that tend to somehow exert control over these entities, and one of those is iron. And I found that to be very, very interesting. Scientifically, I think that there may be something to do with iron and magnetic fields, and I think, Phil, you might want to address this. But what is it about iron and the ability to somehow repel jinn or control them with iron?
Iron, special iron that's made from magnetite, no less.
Meteorites.
And, yes, I mean, jinn were encased in brass bottles with an iron magnetic mesh around it, keeping the jinn neutralized. You know, when there are fishermen in the Middle East, when they put their nets in the Arabian Sea or wherever they are, and they pull up an old bottle, they throw it right back in because they're afraid it might hold a very nasty jinn who is imprisoned. So we see this, for example, in paranormal phenomena. For example, shadow people sightings, and Rosemary will probably say a little more about this, is that we found that when people turn on their televisions, they turn on all their lights, and they turn on everything, the paranormal phenomena seems to die down, especially the shadow people. And you have to remember, when you're using all these electrical things like TVs and stuff, you're generating magnetic fields. And it could be that you're repelling these dimensional beings from entering into your reality there. So we go back once again to the legends. And the legends in the mythology of the jinn say they can be contained and controlled by iron, magnetic iron, and today we see that in our modern technology that when we generate magnetic fields in the home that is experiencing paranormal phenomena, and especially shadow people, the phenomena dies down or disappears.
So like turning on lights or something, just the very act of
and
turning
TVs
on.
And radios and so on.
Right.
How many times we've come across this and heard this, and of course over the years you don't put two and two together until you once again take the jinn into consideration and put them into the equation of the paranormal.
Right. Another thing that I've noticed it's kind of a cross correlation between a whole plethora of different types of phenomenal events that have been reported down through the ages. One of the things that tends to be, I think, consistent and is a correlation, obviously, is the shape-shifting aspect, but also the plasma aspect. I think that is a very important possible connection point between, let's say, the UFO phenomenon, for instance, some sort of spectral or ghost-type phenomena, and the jinn. Now, let's look at this whole idea of plasma and get into it a little bit deeper in terms of how you can actually use a plasma to transmute, as you gave the example, glass into gold. How can something that has smokeless fire or plasma, how is it able to manipulate matter to such a drastic degree?
I wish I knew the answer to that.
Phil, before we do the answer, we got to do the break. Phil Imbrogno and Rosemary Ellen Guiley. I'm Gene Steinberg. The co-host is Chris O'Brien. You're in
the Paracast.
Ray Perkins, a reclusive veteran burned out from the Gulf War, lives tortured by relentless, perplexing nightmares. Nightmares of a horrific battle in deep space and of a mysterious woman suffering in agony for her devastated world. A woman not yet born, calling across centuries to him. Then, a coincidence leads him to his destiny, his chance to alter the universe. Attack of the Rockoids. The former fiction editor for Star Wars and Indiana Jones, Robert Simpson, writes, "The soul of the novel Attack of the Rockoids lies in its heart and passion for building a convincing tale of a love that spans the galaxy, a thrilling story. Attack of the Rockoids is available now. Read a sample chapter and get a special discount off of the cover price at our website, rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com. Attack of the Rockoids, a novel in the grand science fiction tradition."
Hi, this is Alex Jones. Did you know that the global elite are now storing non-hybrid seeds in secret storage vaults near the Arctic Circle? Did you know that in a real meltdown, non-hybrid seeds can become more valuable than silver or gold? It's true, seeds have outperformed even gold and silver before in this country, and it's possible that could even happen again. So our friends at Solutions from Science have put together the perfect mix of non-hybrid seeds. They call it a survival seed bank, and it can produce an endless supply of nutrient-dense food for you and your family. And here's the best part. These seeds have not been genetically modified in any way, and you actually get enough seeds to plant a full-acre crisis garden. So visit them today at survivalseedbank.com. That's survivalseedbank.com, or give them a call at 877-327-0365. That's 877-327-0365. Remember, in a real crisis, non-hybrid seeds are the ultimate barter item. This is Alex Jones for survivalseedbank.com.
This special announcement is brought to you by Renaissance Charge. Have you ever wondered if you could make your car run on 100% electric power for free? It is now possible. How about a simple device that is both a super efficient motor and a free energy generator at the same time? What if this could also be used to restore useless batteries and save you lots of money? Because our customers asked for it, we have organized a Renaissance Charge Conference Workshop on July 29th to July 31st at the beautiful Coeur d'Alene Resort in Idaho. Not only will you see these fascinating energizers, but you will be able to build some alongside genius inventor John Bedini. Participate in this truly historic event featuring our cutting-edge alternative energy Tesla technology. Register early for the best seats and advanced workshop by visiting rcharge.com. That's r-charge.com for details. Or call 208-772-4514. That's 208-772-4514.
Did you know that drinking pure, high alkaline water is one of the most important factors in maintaining high energy and vibrant health? Most experts agree that the water you drink should be at a pH level of 8 or higher. AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops, available only at alkavision.com, combine a unique formula of only the most alkaline minerals. AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops alkalize your water, ridding the body of harmful toxins, and helps you regain health and energy. Alkalizing your water by simply adding 10 drops of AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops helps the body rid itself of acidic waste, increases oxygen content, and raises the pH of your body to healthy levels. And bacteria and viruses cannot survive in an alkaline high pH environment. Order your bottle of AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops for only $29.95 at alkavision.com. That's ALKAvision.com. Or call 269-409-1776. 269-409-1776. Alkalize your body. Supercharge your health at alkavision.com today.
America's #1 source for independent talk radio for over a decade. We are the GCN Radio Network.
Hi, my name is Richard Dolan. You're listening to the Paracast.
We're back with Phil Imbrogno, Rosemary Ellen Guiley, Chris O'Brien's the co-host. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in the Paracast, where, Phil, you're saying you're not able to really answer the question that Chris posed.
Well, I could give you some, spiritual, etherical, whatever you want to answer, but, that doesn't make sense. But the only thing I can tell you is that a plasma can actually interconnect with matter. So unlike human beings that we can't go down and touch individual atoms, a plasma contained by a magnetic field can spindle itself out to actually project part of itself into the very core of the elementary particles that make up matter and rearrange them. And now, this may sound like magic, but it's not. But once again, jinns seem to have this ability. But it's something they're not born with. It's something they have the ability to do, but they have to learn how to do it. For example, in order to make gold from lead, let's say, just an example out of the blue, they have to know the exact arrangement of quarks and other elementary particles that make up, a nucleus of gold, to make the gold. They have to have this knowledge. And it seems from what I found out is that from a very early age, like humans, jinn go to a training session, school, so to speak, and they advance as far as they want. And if they keep on learning all their life, they become more powerful, able to do more amazing things. If they stop learning at a certain age, they can do very little. This is why some jinn are more powerful than others. Some of them are more formidable than others.
And older.
And older, too. But the older they get, we imagine that the more knowledge they obtain. But that's not always the case in human beings. Yes, as you get older, you acquire more knowledge. But with jinn, they're capable of doing much more. And they're not as limited. But you see, we also have an amazing ability to take matter and manipulate it by building things like computers, TVs, automobiles, aircraft. You see, the jinn look at this and our ability, and from what I hear and understand, they find it pretty amazing that human beings have come this far to do this. And, of course, they are a much older race, and human beings are a much younger race, so they're afraid. And one of the fears they have is that one day human beings will evolve more powerful than they are and completely wipe them out, knock them out of the game, so to speak.
And that would probably be due to, accessing and being able to utilize technology, I would think. That would probably be something that they would be very fearful of. Here's another interesting thing that you bring up in your book. And towards the end of the book, you talk about portal areas and how they may be a really important sort of litmus test to look at as investigators to see if there's potential jinn activity there. And you bring up the infamous Skinwalker Ranch. You bring up the San Luis Valley, and you also talk about the farm, which you don't actually identify where it is or particulars about its actual location. But Rosemary, evidently for the last couple of years, you've been pretty zeroed in on a particular location-specific area in a rural setting that has just a bewildering array of paranormal phenomena. My question is that bewildering array of phenomena a clue for you to potentially identify jinn activity?
Yes, absolutely. They seem to be most noticeable in these portal areas. Phil and I have been doing substantial research to document the characteristics of portal areas. This case that I call the farm has been ongoing now for a little over a couple of years, and we give it a full chapter in our next book called Multidimensional Portals, which will be out in December, and we introduce it in The Vengeful Djinn. It's in an area that I call the Appalachian Doorway, which actually starts in the Alleghenies in southwestern Pennsylvania, goes down through West Virginia in the Ohio Valley, and spills into Ohio, and even on down into the Brown Mountains of North Carolina. That whole area down there is very active with what I call broad-spectrum paranormal phenomena. That is everything: mysterious lights, entity contact, UFOs, mysterious creatures, ghosts and poltergeist activity, and I think that it is one of the jinn strongholds in America. And I think that's the case in portal areas around the world. They could exist where there are crossroads or nexus points at ley lines, for example, or when we have the right geophysical configuration with negative magnetic anomalies and the underground things that we were talking about, the tunnels and the caves and underground water. Jinn seem to like these areas, and there may be something about the natural energy and magnetic energy or absence of it that enables them to pass between worlds with more ease. That seems to be the case with other paranormal entity manifestations as well. Oh, and Bigfoot sightings are big in this area too. So it's like a doorway where a lot of things can come and go. And for jinn, it seems to be easy for them to have this territorial anchor. This seems to be a characteristic of the jinn in these cases. There's a territorial turf-mindedness that manifests when the entity wishes to communicate. I'm older than you are. I've been here a long time. I was here first. This is my place. You're the squatters, and you're not welcome. That message is communicated over and over again in these cases that we've looked into.
Every time you mention that they once had dominion over the earth and now we control it more or less, in some half-hearted fashion, unfortunately, are they not able to basically take control again? Not enough numbers of them? What?
Well, only a faction of them are interested in being aggressive toward human beings. And as Phil mentioned earlier, the Djinn come in all stripes, the good, the bad, and the ugly, just like human beings. So in some cases, we may be dealing with either these psychotic Djinn or these renegade Djinn. The terrorist faction of them. It may also have to do with their ability to manifest for any length of time in our dimension, and that's going to vary literally Djinn by individual Djinn in terms of their power. We've noticed in these portal area cases where the activity sort of rolls in a roller coaster. It'll crescendo up to a point and then it drops down again. It's like something having to recharge its battery. So it indicates that whatever is present can't act out in intense, extreme ways all the time. It seems to have to regroup. So there's probably a whole lot of factors involved that are dictating the ability of the Djinn to make inroads. One of them that I think they're pursuing quite actively is in this phenomenon called shadow people. I think these dark silhouettes who come and visit people in their bedrooms at night looking like tall men wearing coats and hats, they're an unknown entity for the most part, but I think that they're Djinn. And I think that they are coming to try and get into our heads or into us, our consciousness, while we're most vulnerable sleeping, and get information from us. It could be biological, neurological, chemical, genetic, even our thought processes. They want information from us that's going to help them become better able to live here.
Well, so there's something here that doesn't let them live here, is what you're saying, and I want to ask more about that because I've become ever curious about that. Maybe we'll even ask questions about Djinn society. Do they have presidents? Do they have emperors, empresses, queens, whatever? More stuff like that. The Vengeful Djinn is the book. The authors Rosemary Ellen Guiley and Philip Imbrogno. I'm Gene Steinberg. Your co-host is Chris O'Brien. You're in
the Paracast.
Are you ready to order the official Paracast t-shirt? You asked, we answered. We're now taking orders for the official Paracast t-shirt. It comes in white, 100% cotton. The front of it features the same logo that we have on our community forums. On the back it says, separating signal from noise. To order the official Paracast t-shirt, here's all you have to do. Visit our new online store at store.theparacast.com. One more time, that's store.theparacast.com. You can use a major credit card to place your order for the official Paracast t-shirt. Hey neighbors, we have one more thing to talk about, and that's more merchandise at the official Paracast store. We have hats, we have jackets, we even have a flip video camcorder customized with the Paracast logo at the official Paracast store. It's all now available at the official Paracast store, store.theparacast.com.
For centuries, silver has been used as a powerful natural antibiotic, and as a listener to this station, you probably already know the benefits of using colloidal silver. With so many websites to choose from, finding a reputable, patriotic company with great products at affordable prices can be a difficult task. Introducing UtopiaSilver.com. UtopiaSilver.com carries the best, most effective, and most affordable colloidal silver and colloidal gold products in the industry. UtopiaSilver.com also carries products to fit your lifestyle, including weight loss, immune system defense, cleanses, herbs, joint and bone care, and much more. First-time customers using promo code GCN50 will receive 50% off all colloidal products. Visit us today at Utopia Silver, that's UTOPIA Silver, utopiasilver.com, or call 888-213-4338. That's 888-213-4338. utopiasilver.com, taking back America's healthcare one American at a time.
Go solar for cheap. Want to use solar power but the price is too high? Now you can build your own solar panels for less than $200 at 123cheapsolar.com. Don't laugh. We've sold over 45,000 solar do-it-yourself kits. Watch the step-by-step videos that even non-handyman types can use. We offer a 60-day money-back guarantee. Go to 123cheapsolar.com or call 800-713-0486. 800-713-0486. Reduce your foreign oil dependency when you go green with 123cheapsolar.com.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? They've been available since 1986, yet the financial industry won't recognize the value of gold for your retirement. Gold has outperformed paper investments, yet no word about IRAs. If you would like to have gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low returns. Call 800-686-2237. Secure your future and call 1-800-686-2237.
If you owe money to the IRS, you can't make the problem go away by yourself. But with the help of Dan Pilla, you can get your problem solved once and for all.
Hi, I'm Dan Pilla. For 30 years, I've helped thousands of people solve their tax debt problem, and I can help you solve yours too. We take a very simple but proven 3-step approach to solving your problem. First, we stabilize IRS collection actions so you don't have to worry about the IRS seizing your bank account or paycheck. Next, we build a comprehensive plan to get your tax debt reduced to the fullest extent possible, sometimes even completely eliminated. And finally, we work with you every step of the way to get your problem solved once and for all. Call us for a free consultation. Call 1-800-346-6829. We'll work together to get your problem solved, guaranteed.
Dan Pilla has been protecting taxpayers from the IRS for 3 decades, and he can help you too. Call us today at 800-346-6829. That's 800-34-NO-TAX.
Are you tired of searching for great talk radio?
Something more important.
Search no more. We are the GCN Radio Network.
You're in the Paracast. You never know what's going to happen next.
A little bit later, we're going to ask your questions, listeners. Chris has been assembling the ones posted in our forums at forum.paracast.com. Chris O'Brien's the co-host. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in the Paracast. So, Rosemary, that's the kind of question here. What kind of society do the Djinn have? Do they have separate tribes, nations, etc.? Do they have some kind of governing body? Policemen to protect against renegades from pulling mischief?
Well, they do have organizations, and actually I'm going to pass that back to Phil because he became very well acquainted with that when he was doing his Middle Eastern travels.
Well, the Djinn, you see, they have clans. They have a clan leader. Clan leader is responsible for all the families that belong to the clan. If a Djinn in a family gets out of hand, the clan leader is responsible. He has to answer to a Djinn king. Now, Djinn have courts. They're made up of clan leaders. And if someone gets out of hand, breaks the Djinn law, they have to go in front of the clan's courts and sentence is passed upon them in whatever way. But there are renegade Djinn. For example, in cases where a Djinn, you see, the Djinn, one of the reasons why some of them like to infiltrate into our world because they want to experience physical pleasures again. And sometimes a Djinn may get out of hand and come into our world and be doing things that he's not supposed to be doing. He's not a renegade. He's not one of these outcasts who are psychotic that were exiled from the Djinn community. He's someone who's just curious, but he's breaking the Djinn law, and that's not to interact with human beings normally. And the Djinn will not give his name.
Prime directive, then, right?
Yes, kind of. Like the jinn will not give his name. It will try to hide who it is, because if you find out its name and they find out he's a jinn, you could go and try to contact the clan leader to have him punished. So he won't tell you his name and what clan he belongs to. He'll try to put on this facade about who he is. He could be an extraterrestrial. He could be an angel. He could be a demon or whatever. You know, he could be a childhood fantasy character or whatever. But they do answer to clan leaders. But there is the terrorists of the jinn that we focus in on the vengeful jinn. They were characterized as calling themselves the Red Jinn. Now, these are people who do not follow any clans. They've been exiled from clans. They broke apart. They do not follow any jinn kings or any rules. They are like terrorists. They only follow Iblis. They worship Iblis. They look at Iblis as sort of like a liberator, a freedom fighter who's trying to establish them back into the world where they belong to. And they look at it this way. Suppose you have this beautiful house and beautiful property, and then someone of a higher authority, let's say the government, comes in one day and says, you're out of your house and I'm putting somebody else in there and you're going to live in a smaller place down the road. I mean, you would look back at that house and say, boy, I worked so hard. That's my house and I want it back. You see, this is the mentality as some of these jinn think.
They believe in eminent domain, then.
They believe that it's it belongs to them. It was originally theirs, and that they want it back. And but you see, there seems to be a higher authority, whether you want to call them, you know, ascended beings or whatever, angels or higher extraterrestrials or higher dimensional beings, whatever you want to call them. They seem to be afraid this is who they have to answer to. So one of the things in Islamic history is that the jinn infiltrate into our world trying to get human beings to destroy themselves so they could be held unaccountable for the destruction of the human race. And once the human race is gone, they can move back in.
Chris, we've been assembling some questions here from our audience at forum.theparacast.com. You have those up?
I do.
Okay, let's start asking your questions, listeners. Now, here's the way it works. When we know in advance, and sometimes we don't know, we book a guest at the last minute. When we know far enough in advance that we're going to be recording a segment with a guest or two guests or more, we will try to post something in the question bank, which is at forum.theparacast.com. That's where you can ask questions of guests, and we ask them, as Chris is going to do right now.
Okay, this one comes from RJ Hark 00. I think he joined last month, actually, to the forum. And he has a very interesting question that may spark, I think, an interesting answer. Have the researchers made a connection between the smokeless fire of the jinn and the burning bush episode in Exodus 3, I think it was chapter 3, verse 1, line 21, the bush that is not consumed by fire? He goes on and puts his own thinking into it and says, I think that the similarity may underscore a more widespread folkloric or mythological trope in the Near Eastern religions. There are many indications of volcanic deities being worshipped in ancient northern Arabia and southern Palestine. They may have looked into this already, but I thought it would be worth mentioning. So could the jinn have been responsible in tricking Moses with a burning bush? It sounds kind of plausible, I guess.
Well, we do address that. And the pillar of fire, right, and the burning bush. And it seems that the jinn have interacted with the human race throughout time in many different ways. It's very possible that some of these ancient gods that were thought to exist a long time ago in Babylon and Samaria and so on, and some of the Mesopotamia and some of the ancient areas, they could have been jinn.
Okay, you do address that in the book, and that's an interesting question. I think someone is out there thinking on the forums. Here's another one. There's a belief that the incorrect practice or over-practice of various styles of Qigong, or, it's a form of yoga, can induce what has been called, I'm not sure how to pronounce this, Zuhorumo or Qigong, what is the word? I'm kind of...
I am not going to get you out of this jam, Chris, because I do it worse than you would.
Okay, there is a belief that the incorrect practice of Qigong can induce what has been called Qigong disease, which is a form of induced psychosis. And I don't know where Alzo, our questioner, came up with this particular fact, but he said it is rumored to be caused by jinn attaching themselves to the chi created by the inexperienced practitioner, in effect possessing the individual. So in other words, I think the question is, if you are an inexperienced practitioner of a form of energy manipulation like Qigong, could that potentially open you up for possession of a jinn?
Well, the jinn can possess people, and they do so, like Phil mentioned, to experience physical pleasure. And I think that there are various ways the jinn can attach. I'd hesitate to put out an alarm that doing, energy and meditational practices could lead to that. I think there would have to be something else involved for the jinn to latch on. Phil, maybe you have some other thoughts on that.
Well, I know for sure that there are certain meditation techniques used in the Middle East that were thought to attract jinn. And I mean, if you're manipulating energy on a psychic level, it may be like a spotlight or shooting up a flare to attract the jinn to come to you. Now, jinn do possess people, but they don't enter the body. They attach through the central nervous system. They're afraid of being trapped inside the body. So they can experience everything that the body and the person experiences, but they can be separated from it. And this is how they experience physical pleasure in our world. But yes, also, by the way, they can get into the body and cause physical illness by breaking down the magnetic field in your body and the electrical system in your body, knocking down your immune system, causing a number of diseases, from being more susceptible to viruses to cancer. I mean, this is the danger of jinn possession. And in the Middle East, by the way, when a jinn possesses somebody, they can't exorcise it. The cleric or the holy man or the expert comes over, the exorcist comes over and deals with the jinn. How long are you going to be in that body? How long will you stay? And the jinn will say, I'll be here 2 weeks and then I'll leave. I just want to experience a lot of different things. And they say, okay, after 2 weeks you must leave the body. Okay. If he doesn't leave, the next step is they take sticks and they start beating the body and causing physical pain, because the jinn can feel it and the jinn will leave. So, this opens up a whole, can of worms as to how the jinn can really affect human beings.
A reminder, if you have a question or a comment about the Paracast, write us, news@theparacast.com. Once again, that is news@theparacast.com. We read each and every letter we get, guaranteed. We don't know how we're being affected by all this, but our sponsors will be affected if we don't give them a chance. We have Phil Imbrogno, Rosemary Ellen Guiley, Chris O'Brien's the co-host. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in
the Paracast.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. If you own an Apple iPhone and love to listen to your favorite programs on GCN, I've got good news for you. I'm proud to announce that GCN has a brand new iPhone app available for our dedicated listeners at GCNlive.com. Listen to your favorite hard-hitting GCN programs live or on demand right on your iPhone. And the best part? The GCN iPhone app can be yours absolutely free. Download the iPhone app today by clicking on the banner at GCNlive.com. Again, that's GCNlive.com. Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? They've been available since 1986, yet the financial industry won't recognize the value of gold for your retirement. Gold has outperformed paper investments, yet no word about IRAs. If you would like to have gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low returns. Call 800-686-2237. Secure your future and call 1-800-686-2237.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
This is our final hour of dealing with the subject of vengeful jinn. and we're asking your questions of Rosemary Ellen Guiley and Phil Imbrogno. Chris O'Brien's the co-host. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in the Paracast. Chris, you have some more questions from the forums.
I do. Before I go on to forum questions, though, I do want to kind of dive in a little bit deeper about this connection between humans and Djinn and whether these types of connections can be induced by humans. There's a very interesting section in your book where you talk about Aleister Crowley and you talk about H.P. Lovecraft and other individuals that may have had some sort of inside knowledge that allows them to be in a position to inadvertently or by design establish connection with Djinn. And one interesting instance that you note in the book occurred in December 1909 when Aleister Crowley and Victor Newberg, his assistant, were in Algeria, and they went out into the desert to conduct rituals for the purpose of accessing high-level ethers, I guess for the lack of a better term, in what was called in the 19th call of Enochian magic. Now, a lot of our skeptics, of course, are going to be rolling their eyes about this point, but having a bit of a knowledge about ritual magic, and I know, of course, Rosemary has quite an extensive knowledge in this area. What do you think of the whole idea of actually manifesting willfully the Djinn, and would you comment on this very peculiar episode that Crowley and Newberg supposedly, allegedly went through, and now outside of Algeria?
I think it is indeed possible to conjure up the Djinn, and there are all sorts of magical procedures for this in the Eastern world, and some of these magical incantations and methodologies that infiltrated into the Western magical system can do the same. And these entities are not always called Djinn, but they may be one and the same. And I couldn't help but notice a lot of similarities to Lovecraft's work, the old ones. I think that Lovecraft probably had some knowledge of the Djinn, which he didn't formally acknowledge, that became embedded in his what he said was a fictional work, the Necronomicon, but may in fact have drawn on something more real than that. Now, the case with Aleister Crowley, he was in contact with very high-level and very powerful entities, which were called demons. But the term demon really doesn't necessarily mean a satanic agency bent on destroying the human soul. Demons refer to a wide variety of entities that have the capability of interacting and interfering with people. And that one episode in the desert, where they conjured up this demon Corazon, the demon of the abyss, a very powerful entity. Crowley went into a trance, and his assistant Victor Newberg was left inside the magic circle, the protection of the magic circle. The entity was conjured into the magic triangle, and in magic this is a system set up to protect the practitioner. The entity is sort of bound into this circle and can't, or the triangle, and can't move into the circle. But it managed through shape-shifting and through invective and anger to breach the magic circle and attack Newberg. And the story is told that the two of them, the entity and Newberg, actually physically wrestled. And Newberg was physically injured from this while Aleister was in this trance situation. And eventually Victor quelled the entity and sent it back out. It was said afterwards that Aleister Crowley was forever affected by this mentally, that the state of consciousness that he had to go into in order to make contact with Corazon had sort of rendered him at least partially insane for the rest of his life. And various interpretations were put on this, that maybe it was a projection, not an actual entity. you have to allow for the fact that Aleister Crowley was an embellisher, and he did seem to have genuine magical talent, but yet he liked to be over the top too. And but even if you take away that, even if you take away the embroidery that's probably in this story, you're still left with an encounter with this very powerful entity, which bears a lot of resemblance to Djinn.
Yeah, and I think Newberg was, permanently affected by this. I think, didn't he commit suicide, if I remember correctly? Or I think he met some pretty nasty ending, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I've visited that particular story. But it seems to me that an encounter of that sort would leave a lasting impression, and so it wouldn't it wouldn't surprise me at all if this could be part of why Crowley became so adamant about breaking the back of the Victorian age, basically. This kind of leads us into another question, and that is close encounter cases such as the Betty and Barney case. Of course, Betty and Barney Hill. In the early 60s, one of the, I guess, sort of linchpin abduction scenarios, one of the first that we have on record. That's fairly well documented. Blowfish wants to know if there is some sort of connection between the abduction phenomenon as it manifests in the modern day and the Djinn. And we have kind of basically touched on this, but looking at it from a pure field investigator point of view, do you think there are a percentage of cases that are been lumped into the abduction scenario that are actually some sort of contact with Djinn?
Well, I think there are, because from the very early days of my investigation into the UFO phenomena, especially the abduction cases, you see that there are different types of abductions and contact that is taking place. And, I'm not saying Djinn are responsible for all the UFO abductions, but they may be responsible for a certain number. For example, you have abductions that seem to be extraterrestrial in nature. And, of course, we don't know if they are or not for sure. But you also have these abductions that seem to be dimensional in nature, where the beings are almost reptilian in shape. They seem to change shape. They seem to abduct people by taking them through portals and then they're in a room and so on. So all the abduction cases are not typical physical Betty Hill sort of abductions. And by the way, Betty Hill I knew very well. Her very early abductions, when I first heard the original tapes that were played to me by John Fuller of the hypnotic session of Barney and Betty Hill, I mean, I was convinced right there in the 80s that, they were alien abductions. But later on, it was conversations that I had with Betty on the phone. Her contacts and her ongoing experiences seemed to be more metaphysical or more dimensional in nature rather than physical extraterrestrials. It's hard really to place a finger on it because her ideas and her contacts seemed to be more dimensional in nature as time went on. And you see this with a lot of people who've experienced abductions. After a while, their stories seem to be more like ghost stories or encounters with demonic entities and hauntings rather than visitors from another star system. So I imagine that a certain percentage of abductions are from dimensional beings, ultra-terrestrials, and of course ultra-terrestrials are Djinn. That's what the folklore, the legendary name for them is.
The book is called The Vengeful Djinn. With us this evening, the authors, Rosemary Ellen Guiley and Philip Ambrogno, and we're tying a whole bunch of things together. The Djinn, UFO abductions, UFOs in general. I'm Gene Steinberg. The co-host is Chris O'Brien. You're in
the Paracast.
You expect professional service from your doctor, your accountant, and even the girl who takes your morning coffee order. Why not from your domain registrar, too? Namecheap.com provides stellar service with no sneaky upselling. We offer more features and security options for your website than there are ways to order a latte. And new domains come with a WhoIsGuard to protect your personal info. At Namecheap.com, you can get your domain for as low as $2.99. Now is a great time to get to know Namecheap.com.
For 58 years, Fate has provided true reports of the strange and unknown. Fate brings you the latest in all aspects of the paranormal, like angels and miracles, psychic phenomena, ghosts, UFOs, and much, much more. To receive your complimentary Fate magazine, call now at 1-800-728-2730 or visit their website at www.fatemag.com. That's 1-800-728-2730. What are you waiting for? Your fate awaits.
On the average, Americans work between 45 to 50 years, hoping to build up enough wealth to retire and live out their golden years. Unfortunately, with taxation, the rising cost of food, energy, housing, and medical, many retirees are forced to live below the poverty line. Is this a flaw free enterprise, or is our monetary unit we call the Federal Reserve Note forcing us into perpetual debt, ensuring inflation and higher taxes? These questions and more can be answered by reading G. Edward Griffin's book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. Congressman Ron Paul states it's what every American needs to know about central bank power. A gripping adventure into the secret world of international banking cartel. Hi, this is Ted Anderson. I will give a silver dollar from the early 1900s to anyone who purchases this book. Call 1-800-686-2237 and order a copy today. It's critical that the public be made aware of the system. Call and order your copy today at 1-800-686-2237. That's 1-800-686-2237.
This message starts with a great offer from Big Berkey Water Filters because we don't want you drinking dangerous water 1 minute longer. Right now, purchase any filter system from BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com to get your choice of 2 Berkey Sport bottles, a KDF shower filter, a set of fluoride filters, or our new sight glass spigot absolutely free. Why do this? Because over 60% of municipal water is fluoridated, and at less than 2 cents per gallon, Berkey Water Filters purify both treated and untreated water, removing dangerous chlorine, fluoride, and other contaminants. Big Berkey water filters are powerful enough to purify stagnant pond water, so they're perfect for rainwater collection systems and emergency preparedness. Remember, Big Berkey includes free shipping on every order over $50, and GCN listeners get 5% off all ceramic filter systems. Visit BIGBERKEY waterfilters.com or call 877-99-BERKEY. That's BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com or call today 1-877-99-BERKEY.
The largest part of gaining radiant health is detoxification. You can drink ionized water, cleanse your intestines, eat a perfect diet, and even take lots of quality supplements and in many instances only make minimal progress. What is the key to detoxifying your body of mercury, heavy metals, chemicals, and drugs? It is glutathione. Glutathione is the master antioxidant used to detoxify your entire body. It stops free radicals, keeps cells young, and reduces inflammation. One World Whey protein powder may be able to raise your glutathione production by 64% or more. One World Whey is more effective than any other whey protein powder on the market because it is unheated and from grass-fed cows. All other, quote, cold processed whey protein powders have been heated and damaged by 15% or more. One World Whey comes in 3 delicious flavors. Call 888-988-3325. That's 888-988-3325 or visit oneworldwhey.com. That's oneworldwhey.com.
The GCN Radio Network, providing the world with hard-hitting talk radio. GCN. Great talk radio starts here.
We want to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com. Get in on all the action at forum.theparacast.com.
We're back with Rosemary Ellen Guiley, Phil Imbrogno. The book is The Vengeful Djinn. And I had a question before we go on. Chris O'Brien asks some more responses from our forums, and that is this. Okay, we talk about the people, the jinn, the creatures coming here. What about going there? Can we go there?
I think we probably do sometimes. I think we fall through the window in the opposite direction as well. There are some precedences for this in the fairy lore, where people stumble through that doorway in the fairy rath, or how as it was called, the mound leading into the underworld, and had incredible experiences. Now, in fairy lore, if you stumbled into fairyland, the odds were very slim that you would come out. The fairies would hold you captive there. It's sort of like a one-way doorway. We can speculate that some of the many cases of missing people on this planet every year might be cases where individuals fall through these one-way trapdoors into a variety of parallel dimensions, including the land of the Djinn, and are either unable to find their way back, or perhaps they are prevented from finding their way back.
Or may be caught in a time dilation and show up 20 years later like Rip Van Winkle.
Oh, that's right.
This kind of brings me into a very interesting question from one of our proud skeptics on the forum. Chained Observer calls himself paranormally perplexed. And his question is, ask Phil just how much a believer, and that's italicized, he is in the Djinn legends. From hearing him talk on a recent radio show, he had a true believer sound to a lot of what he was saying. I've always had a lot of respect for Phil's work. Is this a case where he has real evidence that has persuaded him that these things are real and the stories about them have some validity? And if so, what is it? I have to tell you, when people start talking about interdimensional grudges and what have you, I wonder just how much or how this information can be assessed to any reasonable doubt or any reasonable extent.
Yes, both. This is something that I'm working on to document. The answer to that question, I don't believe in the mumbo-jumbo of the Djinn. You know, all the Islamic stuff that's, you know, the magic and the Muslim stuff that goes back to the ancient Persian times with the magical rituals and all that there. I'm a scientist. But I do believe that, you know, there is all this phenomena manifesting into our reality. And a great percentage of it is not just the pipe dreams of an overactive imagination of a bored society. People are experiencing something. People who didn't even care about paranormal phenomena are experiencing all of these different things. So it seems that there is this other reality that's close to us, and there seems to be an intelligence in this other reality that's close to us. We go back and we can find out that, yes, the Muslim people, the Persian people before that, they did believe in this other reality and that it was inhabited by beings. So I'm saying right now is that, you know, you have to open your mind to it. I'm presenting evidence and I'm presenting stories and evidence that I've acquired in the Middle East, and Rosemary and I have done in a lot of our investigations into the Djinn and attaching the folklore to modern times and even paranormal phenomena in the UFO phenomena with this idea of dimensional beings in the multidimensional universe. And you have to remember also that now it sounds like mumbo-jumbo, magic, a lot of wide ideas and so on. But the idea of a dimensional universe may be our science of the late 21st and 22nd century. Back in the 1700s, the idea of space travel would have been considered pipe dreams and the ravings of fanatics. But today, it's a fact. So I think the human race is once again on the verge of a new awareness into the true nature of the universe. And we just can't dismiss anything. We have to consider that the legends of our ancestors, some of it, reflected real experiences.
I applaud that answer, and that's I'm taking notes because when I'm asked that, I want to be able to be as eloquent as you were in in answering that question. Because as Rosemary,
you should catch me on a better day, on a good day.
That was good though, and as Rosemary knows, as well as Gene, that by going out and being active in this field and, you know, exposing yourself to people that have had extraordinary experiences, you really have to be as objective as possible. And the question is whether you believe in the Djinn legends. Obviously, you don't believe in them by literal definition, but boy, you sure take into account that this is a cross-cultural phenomenon in terms of various cultures have their own descriptions that seem to be describing something very similar. So it's not something that you can just discount. I think it does give us a leg up on an investigative process that we're going through here. Another question that came up in my mind has to do with just the whole idea of what is the tipping point. The Djinn obviously have not been able to, going with the assumption that there is some reality behind this, they haven't gotten to a tipping point where they're able to manifest control, in a large way over humankind and human culture. But what do you envision is sort of their goal in terms of trying to regain control of Earth or this reality? What do you think it's going to take for them to actually get there? Is it the human race annihilating itself and they kind of win by default? Or is there some proactive thing that they can do short of that to have control?
I think there's two trains of thoughts with the Djinn society. At one time, Djinn interacted and coexisted with human beings on this planet. Each respected the other's space, so to speak, and there was some contact back and forth. I believe that some of the more established Djinn hope that this is going to happen again someday, but they have to wait to a point until the human race reaches a certain level of understanding and development, because right now we would consider them invaders. But there is another faction of Djinn that only has one idea. The only way that they could come back into this world is get rid of the competitors, and that's extinguish every human soul on this planet, or knock down the population to a certain number and enslave us. There are many beliefs. There are many beliefs over in the Middle East with not only clerics and holy men, but also people who are involved with the sciences over there that consider the dimensional idea. And believe it or not, I mean, it's almost a scary thought. There's almost the idea that the Djinn are establishing beachheads for an invasion.
And another thing to keep in mind, Chris, is we really don't know the extent of their activities among us because they are the hidden ones, and they're very good at disguising themselves. So we have probably only the tip of the iceberg noticeable to us now in the most standout kinds of examples and cases.
I'll tell you what, we'll get into more of those cases and more of this discussion about whether they are trying to do us harm right now. We have Rosemary Ellen Guiley and Philip Imbrogno. It's the Vengeful Djinn we're talking about. The co-host is Chris O'Brien. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in
the Paracast.
Is there a secret UFO agenda? Do strange creatures from the darkest corners of the mind roam the Earth? Is there evidence for mind control, time travel, or devious government conspiracies? Find out the inside scoop on the latest conspiracies, paranormal activity, and Fortean phenomena when you subscribe to Tim Beckley's Conspiracy Journal. It's jam-packed with stories, special book and DVD promotions, and the best news, it's absolutely free, sent right to your mailbox. Plus, a bonus free email newsletter sent out every Friday. Simply send an email with your name and address to Mr. UFO at webtv.net. That's Mr. UFO at webtv.net. Find out what they don't want you to know.
We all know that Berkey Water Purification Systems are the most trusted name in water filtration. As an authorized Berkey dealer for over 5 years and serving thousands of satisfied customers, the Berkey Guy offers amazing specials for Berkey Water Filtration Systems. The Berkey Light Systems include a set of self-sterilizing and recleanable black purification elements that purify water by removing chlorine, pathogenic bacteria, cysts, and parasites to non-detectable levels and remove harmful chemicals such as herbicides and pesticides. Order the Berkey Light System today, complete with 2 black Berkey elements for only $220. And the Berkey Guy will include 3 sport Berkey water bottles and ship everything to you free of charge. That's right, 3 sport Berkey water bottles and free shipping. An $87 value, yours free. Call the Berkey Guy at 1-877-886-3653. That's 1-877-886-3653. Or order online at GoBerkey.com. That's GoBerkey.com today.
There's mounting evidence suggesting that there are people, governments, corporations, and whole professions intent on short-circuiting humanity's well-being. GMO, food legislation protecting big agriculture, the attempted elimination of vitamins and alternative medicines, it seems their hand has been tipped. They want to dictate your health, wealth, and your longevity. Whatever the outcome, we have a solution. Wild edible food. Why worry about food when all has been provided? We imagine that we were ejected from the garden and never invited back, but the garden's still here. There is an endless wild abundance which grows all over our green earth, just waiting for you to wake up and see it. Let author Linda Runyon teach you how to see, know, get, prepare, store, and eat wild edible food. Save money, add nutrition, and ignore the noise when you go shopping in nature's supermarket. Go to ofthefield.com and get started today. Or call 1-888-51-EAT-FREE. That's ofthefield.com or call 1-888-51-EAT-FREE and begin to see a different world.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Hi, my name's Russ, and after my heart attack, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I needed to keep on working, but now it's becoming a problem. I heard about these garlic cayenne drops and hoped it would help me. Well, I've been taking them for about 4 months, and the way I'm feeling now, I can see how I just might make it to retirement, thanks to Extendovite.
My name's Don Wiskin, and I want you to know Extendovite works. If you're looking for more energy, or just want to be as healthy as you can, now is the time to join the growing list of real people benefiting from Extendovite. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822. Or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
America's #1 source for independent talk radio for over a decade. We are the GCN Radio Network.
This is Kurt Sutherland, the author of UFO Mysteries, and you're listening to the Paracast.
We have Rosemary Ellen Guiley, Phil Imbrock. No, the vegetable gin is on the table for discussion. Chris O'Brien's the co-host. I'm Gene Steinberg. You're in the Paracast. Now, Rosemary, you had started this discussion about things they might be doing to do us harm. Do you think any of the conflicts we see around the world are caused not by our own warring nations or tribes, but by them?
It's certainly possible, and we've collected some cases that we also think are the tip of an iceberg in terms of returning American servicemen from the Middle East who are seem to be coming home with Djinn attachments. And whether that just sort of happens to them in the circumstances of combat, or whether there are our own mortal enemies who are able to marshal the Djinn in ways against us, remains to be known. But I suspect that it happens more than we realize. And, of course, some of the servicemen who come home with lots of trauma, there are a lot of things going on in addition to what seem to be Djinn attachments. But they could certainly be taking advantage of a lot of our natural conflicts. We have to be open to the speculation that there are human forces and agencies who are able to collaborate with the Djinn, or even co-opt the Djinn in some way to work for them, sort of as invisible mercenary forces.
Wow, that brings up a very interesting point, and one that I raised in my book, Stalking the Tricksters, and that is that there seems to be kind of a school of thought in the Middle East that, this Western aggression that appears to be going on as we speak right now, look at Libya, Western aggression in the Middle East may be Djinn-inspired. I think that let's put it this way. I think that it wouldn't surprise me if a fair number of people in the Middle East that believe in the Djinn and have a deeper understanding of the concept than we do in the West would equate Djinn activity to the type of political strife that has been instigated by the Western powers in the Middle East. Now, I know that's an overly simplistic kind of hypothesis, but what do you think of that? I mean, Phil, you were over there. Do people in the Middle East think that there's somehow a Djinn influence on American foreign policy there?
Well, they do believe that Djinn have taken control over certain villages and towns in Syria and Iraq and in Oman and some of the other Arab countries. And they also believe that certain Djinn have made deals, 3 wishes, so to speak, with certain political leaders and also certain rebel leaders, rabble-rousers, religious leaders, to give them power and to manipulate situations so they can get into power. And, of course, for what they want is the human race to be in total discord so they can make it easier for them to come into our world and take control. So you have all of these stories, and then you have all of these other strange stories about Djinn entering our dimension and the government trying to capture one, the governments of the world. So, I mean, what is really going on? I mean, is this a psychosis of the 21st century that we have to blame it on all our problems on dimensional beings? Or are these dimensional beings really existing and causing all this? And it seems that all of this is happening in the Middle East. Every time you look at it, another country's breaking out with riots. And this is exactly the way I heard the Djinn would operate. They would make deals with certain leaders and give them power in order to do this so they can gain control. But in the end, the Djinn wants his payment, and then who knows what that's going to be. It's not going to be good for the person they made the deal with or the human race.
But if the Djinn are so powerful, and I don't really understand this to this day, and certainly listening to this discussion, they're so powerful, why do they need to work behind the scenes? Where can't they just break through the dimensional barrier and just take us over?
Well, because, first of all, it's not all the Djinn. There is a certain number of Djinn that want to coexist with the human race, and they're waiting for the time for it to happen. There is a smaller number of Djinn, almost terrorist-like Djinn.
I understand the point of the terrorist Djinn.
The good Djinn, the bad Djinn, and the very bad Djinn. But you see, the power is limited.
Phil, I understand that. I understand that we have good Djinn and bad Djinn from what you said before. The question here is, though, the factions that are evil, are they being kept under control by the authorities, by the good Djinn, or what?
They're probably checked from time to time, but their power is limited. They don't have unlimited power. When they expel power, they have to rest, just like you going to work or going out and cutting the grass. After you do that, you need to take a rest. When they expel energy, they have to rest and rebuild their resources up. And the human race, our world is so involved with so much technology and so many people. They really don't have the power just to come in and wipe us all out. They have to do it. They're coming in and they're doing it through our own. Plus, they're being checked. So that they don't have limitless power, but they have more power than human beings do, and they do have power, but it has a limit to it.
Okay, now, the good Djinn, the ones who want to coexist with humans, where do we reach the point where that can happen? Do we have to get all the tribes, the warring tribes on this planet, to be a little bit more cooperative before that happens? What?
I would think that they're waiting for a point. See, according to the ancient beliefs, Djinn are afraid of humans, and humans were afraid of Djinn. One of the things they're afraid of is that human beings are very violent, and they're unpredictable. And the Djinn see this aggression as sooner or later human beings enslaving them again. And so there's a distrust between humans and Djinn. And, of course, they're lost in our legend, so people don't think about them anymore. But most Djinn still remember humans, and they still distrust them. But you have to remember, there are probably also many Djinn who have never encountered humans. to them, humans are just a legend.
They don't believe in us, and we don't believe in them.
Yeah, we don't believe in that. We don't believe in you.
Good point.
But, I mean,
Chris, any more questions
like
from the forums?
Sword.
Yeah, go ahead, Phil. Sorry, we cut you off there.
Go ahead. Yeah, finish it up, Phil, and then we'll ask the questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's like a double-edged sword. I mean, you have to take into account that, the psyche of the human race and the psyche of the Djinn are both free-willed beings. Throughout the ages, they have grown this distrust for each other. And there is a faction of Djinn. I really don't call them the good. They're the indifferent. They're hoping one day that they can coexist with human beings once again. And there is certain number of Djinn that would destroy them. I mean, if a certain number of Djinn came into our world with their power and everything, don't you think that certain governments of the world would try to exploit them?
Yeah.
I mean, they fear us.
Well, that leads me to Philip Dean's question, and we kind of touched on this before, but could you ask Phil if he thinks the military units assigned to track or capture the Djinn have had any success? In other words, have they ever captured a Djinn? Also, is this just confined to U.S. activity? I think you answered that before by saying that the Saudis were implicated in at least those two instances that you cited about military units showing up during a Djinn sighting. But do you think that there has been any success in this regard? And what would be the motivation, do you think, for the U.S. to be going over to the Middle East trying to capture a Djinn?
I just want to point out before we get started here that we're about to break for our final break for the session, so hold that answer about whether we have captured a Djinn and where would they be. Are they being kept on ice? Is it kind of like the legends of Roswell? Gets to be very interesting. The forums we keep mentioning on the show where we're asking all those questions, that's forum.paracast.com. That's forum.paracast.com. It's very easy to join up. You give yourself a unique username, then you can participate. And when we have the question bank feature for an upcoming guest, you can ask the questions, and we try to get to most of them. Sometimes we have too many questions, but we do our best. Phil Imbrogno joining us, Rosemary Ellen Guiley. The book is The Vengeful Djinn. I'm Gene Steinberg. The co-host is Chris O'Brien. You're in
the Paracast.
Graphic Converter is the image manipulation tool for the rest of us. It does not use any database. You get full control of all your files. Want to view the images of a folder? Drag it into Graphic Converter, and a powerful browser opens up to show your image files. You could use it for slideshows. You could use it to import images from digital cameras or from scanners. Need to do some image editing? You can do that too in Graphic Converter. Also print catalogs. Convert from so many formats I can't even list them. Download now to see if Graphic Converter is good for you, like 1.5 million other users. Guess what? You could save money when you buy Graphic Converter. Use the coupon code Night Owl. Use the coupon code Night Owl to get a special price for Graphic Converter. Go to lemkesoft.com. That's LEMKEsoft.com. Lemkesoft.com. LEMKEsoft.com.
The food storage industry leader has done it again. Introducing FDG Clubs and Survival Bucks from the Freeze Dry Guy. For over 39 years, the Freeze Dry Guy has served various government agencies and the private sector with the finest in storable foods and emergency rations. If you've wanted to build emergency food supplies but couldn't afford it, now you can. Go to freezedryguy.com, click on products, and look for the Freeze Dry Guy Clubs to pay as you go. Now you can build food storage without going into debt. Choose from a payment range of $95 to $450 per month. Our clubs work with everyone's budget. Plus, when you join Freeze Dry Guy Clubs, you'll get additional rewards. For example, this month, get 10% back in Survival Bucks on all purchases in the Freeze Dry Guy product line, plus free shipping within the lower 48 states on any order amount. Hurry, go to freezedryguy.com or call 866-404-3663. That's freezedryguy.com or call 866-404-3663. The Freeze Dry Guy, the best you can buy.
If you owe the IRS money you can't pay, then listen carefully, because you already know that the problem won't go away by itself. You can get help today from the leading tax expert in the country, Dan Pilla.
Hi, I'm Dan Pilla. The IRS isn't going to just forget about you. Right now, the IRS is hiring thousands of tax collectors to go after delinquent accounts just like yours. That's why you need to take action today, and I can help. I take a simple but proven approach to solving your tax debt problem. First, I stabilize collections so you don't have to worry about wage and bank levies. Next, I build a detailed plan to get your debt reduced to the fullest extent possible, sometimes even eliminated. Finally, I work with you every step of the way to get your problem solved once and for all. So call now for a free consultation. Call 1-800-346-6829.
Dan Pilla will solve your tax problem, guaranteed. He's helped thousands of people, and he can help you too. Call us today at 800-346-6829. That's 800-34-NO-TAX.
How well and how fast does Heart and Body Extract work to improve blood circulation? Listen.
My name is Ellis, and I am 66 years old, and I live in Jacksonville, Florida. 2 years ago, I was diagnosed as having clogged arteries. I had 70% blockage in one artery leading to my heart. They wanted me to go on Plavix, but I refused, knowing the negative side effects.
Heart and Body Extract is a unique balance, synergy, and proportion of herbs reaching from head to toe at maximum absorption around 95% at the cellular level.
Within the first month, I felt a dramatic difference. The heaviness in my legs was reduced, and within 2 months, I felt completely normal.
Your natural organic herbal formula for heart health is Heart and Body Extract. Heart and Body Extract comes with a 100% ironclad money-back guarantee. Details at hbextract.com or call 866-295-5305 for Heart and Body Extract. Call 866-295-5305, 866-295-5305 for Heart and Body Extract.
Are you tired of searching for great talk radio?
Something more important.
Search no more. We are the GCN Radio Network.
This is Hilly Rose, and I hope that you do listen to the Paracast because you will learn a great deal about the paranormal.
We have one more segment with Philip Imbrogno, Rosemary Ellen Guiley. The Vengeful Djinn is our topic. I'm Gene Steinberg. The co-host is Chris O'Brien. So, Phil, we left that question on the table. If we captured a djinn?
When I was in the Middle East in Saudi Arabia, and I was at the dinner table with a member of the royal family, my cousin, I asked him, and he told me of the operation of trying to capture a djinn, the gate to take out. I asked him, has a djinn ever been captured? And he said he did not know because the matter is of the highest security, and he wouldn't be privileged to that information. So I have to go with that. I don't know if they actually captured one or not, but you do hear rumors about, let's say, our government and other governments of the world, main powers, making deals with, certain type of entities who are dimensional in nature and so on. So
Faustian bargains.
It may be possible that, the governments of the world, some governments of the world, some leaders of the world have made deals with them and had communication with them, but whether or not they've actually captured one and have one on ice, I couldn't tell you.
Like a Faustian bargain.
It's probably as elusive as the alleged ETs that we've supposedly captured.
Yeah. Good point. Well, I have another question here. I happened to post a very interesting article written by kind of a bit of a rabble-rouser in the UFO field, Anthony Brugaglia. And the last question that I have here is from JT, and he says, given Phil's military background, I'd be interested to hear his thoughts and insights on the National Reconnaissance Office. Brugaglia's article goes into some pretty interesting questions about, who actually has been monitoring UFO activity on this planet. And, of course, the NRO would be kind of the hidden agency that might be sitting on quite a wealth of data. What do you know about the NRO, and what do you think, Phil? Do you think they've got some smoking gun evidence?
I don't know. You have to remember my military experience was somewhat limited to operations in Cambodia during the Vietnam War. So I never really came across UFO documents or UFO information in that nature. But during my investigations as a UFO investigator, especially during the Hudson Valley case, I was contacted by the Air Force directly regarding the sightings, and I was the first civilian contacted directly by the Air Force since Project Blue Book closed down. So I imagine, and the people who contacted me were just obviously getting information for somebody else. They were front for somebody else. So, I see a certain aspect of the government, and the government's a big word, but there are probably very, very, small units of operations that are in the government collecting information on UFOs. That's obvious from the contacts that I've had over the years with people from the NSA and the CIA and so on. And some of my investigations that I've run into brick walls and actually been threatened at times, telling me to back off, especially when I was investigating the sightings at the Indian Point nuclear reactor in Buchanan, New York, where the sightings were verified. I was told to back down. So there are very strong arms in the United States government that are monitoring this.
Okay, well, that's it for my questions, Gene, in terms of our forum posters.
Well, I'm going to ask you folks, because we have a few minutes left, Rosemary or Phil, either one of you can answer this question, which is, where should we go in terms of scientific investigation to try to get more information about this? Because obviously, if we have creatures from another dimension who want to take over, want to interact with us and do us harm, we've got to do something to combat that. So, Rosemary, Phil, who wants to answer that? What do we do?
Well, one thing that we can do, and Phil can address this from a scientific perspective, first of all, we have to have information and knowledge, which is one of the reasons why we wrote the book, to inform people what we think is going on, and to make people aware of the fact that we are engaging with entities, and they may not be who we think they are. We have been working on some equipment that Phil has been very innovative with in developing in terms of trying to identify the places where these entities are most likely to manifest and how we can communicate with them. And we need to experiment with different ways for interacting with them and also preventing problems. In the cases we've looked into, there is no one universal remedy. People have to experiment with a variety of things to find out what is effective for them, and that may have to do with the